that was her song request. Now we're going to turn it over to sharing some special moments from family members and friends. If anybody wants to come up, I've got, but before I do that, I didn't want to prepare anything, but there's so many things going through my head right now. My dad, our dad, was our foundation to our family. Before that, it was our grandparents over here, my sister's right here. But we have such a strong family. We've got my aunts and my uncles that we were raised around. Our California kids would come into town and we'd have a great time, just like we've celebrated for the past 3 days. It's always been chaos, but it's fun chaos. So I love my aunts and uncles and cousins so much. So I'd like to invite those special people up to come. Say if y'all want to come up together, and Uncle Tom, you want to go first?
Sure, 3 brothers.
3 brothers.
So I'm Tom. So I would be the next on the list, I guess you might say. Can you hear me? No. Okay. So Jerry and I, you've heard of Tom and Jerry, right? The cartoon, the drink, hold on. All right, there we go. So anyway, I'm an old paratrooper. Never cried in my life, I think. Anyway, we grew up together, and I remember the time when we were like this tall. And we lived in this little town, well, a couple of little towns in Michigan, but one was very rural. One of the stories I'll tell you, we had adventure in our blood. We also had entrepreneurship in our blood. So I think Jerry was probably 12 and I was 10. We ended up getting a paper route. You weren't supposed to peddle papers until you were 12. In Michigan, during the winter, it could get very cold. And so Jerry and I would get up on the weekdays. We'd deliver the papers in the evening. We'd go over, we'd get these big bundles. We'd get these big bundles, and then on the time, and then we'd roll these papers up, and I can still show you how to do it if you want to. But roll them together, then we'd go out with our bikes or walking, depending upon the circumstances, pitch them up on the porch, and then we have to go collect at the end of the week. And we had the funnest time collecting, because there were often times when no one was there, and that was our time to get our money to turn it in. So we developed the system. We would offer these we'd offer a Sunday free paper if everyone paid on time. If we got there, they would pay. We had a pretty good collection system going. But we did so well that in Michigan, in the winter, it would be very cold. We earned this opportunity to go to Central High School in Flint. So we got a free bus ride there. So here we are, a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old getting on this bus going into Flint to go swimming in their swimming pool. And it would get really cold. So we'd return home, and our parents thought we were kind of, we'd be home like within 2 hours. But we decided we'd hang out for a while after we got back off the bus and visit with people. How did we get in trouble? We were always getting into trouble. One of the times, also during the winter, we had a hill near us, and it would pack with snow. And we liked to ride sleds down the hill. And but getting up the hill was pretty slippery. So these cars coming by, going up the hill, take our sleds, slide in behind them, and grab onto the bumper, pull us up the hill. Anyway, it goes on and on. But throughout the time, in terms of our life together as brothers, we had our ups and downs. We had wonderful times. There were times we'd fight each other. But and there are a lot of times I don't have time to share with you. If you want to anyway. But the one thing that I have to share about our life here as the last 5 years, I live in California. We'd invite our brothers out to visit with us, to come out and hang out. go to the beach, go out and have just fun, do the adventure stuff. We have a wonderful time. And can you imagine 4 Dexel guys? You guys can tell you some of those stories. But it was an awesome bond. And over the last year, we would talk on the phone more often than you girls know. But you know how Jerry is. And we talked about a lot of stuff. He shared things with me that he wouldn't share with his daughters. Jerry liked the kid. Jerry liked the kid. And he would sometimes you'd spin a little yarn and walk off and expect you to like say, "What? That's bullshit." And go back and talk to him about it. He would often do that with me. And I can tell you this. I want to tell you one more kid story, because this is a revelation to you girls. He and I were baptized together as kids. Our parents were good Christians. Be sure that we knew the Lord. And so here we are, about the same age. So about at this time about 9 or 11. So our mother bought us new shirts and new pants. They were brand new. Because we're getting baptized in this church in a baptism. So the pastor, whoever he was, invited both of us into the baptismal together. So since he was older, he got baptized first. I stood there as he started to walk up the stairs. And it was kind of interesting, but it was embarrassing to Jerry. And everyone laughed. So now it's my turn. Went through the baptism. And so I knew I had to do something. Reach down, grab my pants, and pull myself up. So with that story, I want to tell you, there are times in your life when things fall down. And it's just a matter of reaching down, pull yourself up. Trust each other. Battle it out. Whatever you know. Hey, there's a love among us that is stronger. Hey, there's a love among us that's stronger than you could ever imagine. Keep it going. Enjoy.
It's nice to see everybody here today. What a blessing. Thank you for coming. And the only thing I can add to that, to what Tom was saying, you know, when I got baptized in a little church back in Flint, Michigan, and I walked down the steps, and my mother told me, "Danny, we couldn't even see you." Figure that. Anyway, in regard to Jerry,
Stand up. Stand up, Denny.
I'm standing. You should have got me a milk carton here. Anyway, I'm used to it. You know, we've all got memories, great memories about Brother Jerry. And, you know, I'm no exception. We had a chance to visit because we were still fairly close together, although he was in Arizona, and my wife Susie and I were up here. We were able to spend some of our winters down in Arizona, and so we had a chance to, you know, still all the families to be together. And I took that opportunity to visit with Jerry because I could see that his health was slowly going downhill, and I've got good memories of Jerry, and I know that we're gonna be together again someday. That makes it a whole lot easier. And so I know he's in a better place. But I will say this: you've got to know Jesus to get there. Thank you.
I'm Steve Dexel. I'm the baby brother to Jerry, but I'm not his little brother. I didn't want to take away from Denny's title. But I wrote a few things down. You know, Jerry, I was 12 years later than Jerry. I guess you could say I was the oops. Not only was Jerry my brother, but the better part of it is he was my friend. And that means a lot to have a brother that is your friend. He lived in Yuma when I was growing up. Everywhere he went, even with Vera and the girls, it seemed to me that I was always included. Whether it be boating, fishing, which he was the biggest fish I ever caught. I hooked him in the back of the neck one time when we were in a little boat. And when I reeled back because I thought it hung on the side of the boat and went to sling it, he grabbed me and he said, "Don't you dare." Then I realized we had to cut it out of his neck with an old worm knife. It's kind of messy. But anywhere he went, I went. And it was interesting because he'd take me dune bugging with him. And a lot of times it was after work. And we had an area that we dune buggy really close to our house, a couple blocks away. And we always seemed to break down. Well, Jerry thought it was important for him to stay with the dune buggy. So as about 11, I'd be hiking across the desert at night. Of course, you know there's snakes out there. And it wasn't until a little later I realized that he took me with him so that I could be the one to walk in. And we'd pull up, or I'd walk up in the driveway and my dad would already be standing next to his truck with a rope out. Because he knew when we got home really late or didn't get home really late that he was going to have to come pull us out at some point in time. But we'd go snake hunting together, usually on Friday nights and Saturday nights. The big thing for us to do was go out snake hunting. And he had an old truck, and to make a dune buggy out, you just took the fenders off. And so I'd set up on the hood looking for the snakes that were usually in the road or curled up on the side of the road. And we'd be cruising along, and of course he couldn't just slow down. You know, I'd pop on the hood of the truck to get him to slow down. Oh no, he had to hit his brakes, so I'd go flying off where the snake was and had the gigs and the shovels and everything else. It was brought up that he was a boxer. Oh, sorry. Enter delete.
Love those cell phones.
Well, anyways, he was a boxer, but he was a boxer in the Navy. And in the Navy, there wasn't a whole lot to do sometimes. His ship was real small. I bet it wasn't 20 feet wide and maybe 160 feet long. And so they'd pull up alongside another ship out in the middle of nowhere, and they would signal across, "Do you have a boxer?" And they'd signal back, "Yeah." And so they'd shoot a cable across to the other boat. And either the boxer from their ship would come across on one of those little Bolson seat kind of things, little board with a cable on it, or they'd send him over. Well, he won every fight except for one. And I think he was fighting a guy on an aircraft carrier. They sent my brother over there to fight. Well, because of an aircraft carrier, the commander flew in a great big guy. I mean big. And he beat my brother to a pulp to the point that they had to tie him to that chair to send him back to his ship. There was so many other stories about Jerry. You know, being the mayor, that was interesting, to say the least. But all I can say is that he knew I loved him, and I knew he loved me, and I know he loved everybody in his family. You may not have said it, but you knew it. And for that, I'm just so glad to, you know, people say, "Are you sad?" And I'm like, you know, knowing that he passed because of his situation, I didn't want him to suffer anymore. But I am so happy to say I have great memories of my brother and always will. And I loved him and I still love him. So to all of you, thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. I know he would appreciate it. And for Cage, you know, I wasn't around Cage a whole lot. And it's true, when he was younger, he was a handful. He was a pistol, a red-headed pistol. But he grew into an excellent young man in his latter years, and it's unfortunate the way he went. But anyways, thank you for coming, and I'm so proud to have been his brother.